Well, good morning, everybody. Everybody's wide awake. I was happy to see some of the students up so early. Thank you all for coming out here. It's great to be here with you. Don, thank you for the kind introduction. I'm delighted to be back here at Goucher College, and I'm truly honored to be the first speaker in your new leadership series. I want to thank you, Don, and the Greater Baltimore Committee for sponsoring. President Devereaux, thank you very much for the invitation. It was, I think, a terrific idea to launch a political event here in Maryland that's like the historic Politics and Eggs breakfast in Manchester, New Hampshire, which I had the pleasure of speaking at a couple of years ago. When you go there, they hand out like wooden eggs that they want you to sign for each of the things. So I would suggest if you think about having some kind of a memento here in the future, do not go with wooden eggs. They're very hard to sign. I do want to again thank Don Fry and the Greater Baltimore Committee for their support of this series. I want to especially commend the great work that's being done here at the Sarah T. Hughes Center for Politics, led by Dr. Cromer, who happens to be, I think, more of an authority on me than I am. She has almost single-handedly turned the Goucher poll into one of the most trusted and respected polls in the state and the country. I think that one antidote to our toxic politics that we see today is having more young people take an interest in public service. And the students here could not have picked a better place to get a first-rate political education. Among other things, last week's Goucher poll found that the overwhelming majority of Marylanders believe that our state is headed in the right direction. That's a far cry from where we were 7 years ago, when after 43 consecutive tax hikes, our state had lost thousands of businesses and a couple 100,000 jobs. People were fleeing the state in all directions. Sadly, a Gallup poll, not nearly as good as a Goucher poll, but the Gallup poll said that nearly half of all Marylanders wanted to leave the state. And that really hit home with me. It broke my heart as a person who's a lifelong Marylander who loves this state. And it made me so frustrated, I decided to try to do something about it. And that's when I decided to run for governor. I pledged I'm just a lifelong small business guy, I never held office before. But I pledged that I was going to fight for small businesses, to fight to put more people to work, to turn our economy around, and to try to change Maryland for the better. I know this doesn't really happen very often in politics. But we did exactly what we said we were going to do, which is what all of them should do, I think. But we've not had a single tax increase in the entire nearly 7 years I've been governor. We've cut taxes, tolls, and fees 7 years in a row by more than $2.6 billion. We put all that money back into the pockets of hardworking Marylanders, back into small businesses, and back into our growing economy. We inherited back in 2015, a $5.1 billion budget deficit. We've now turned it into a record budget surplus of $2.5 billion. We changed the mission of state government to be unabashedly pro-jobs and pro-business. And we took Maryland's overall economic performance from 49th out of 50 states to one of the best in America. A national survey by CNBC recently named Maryland as the single most improved state in America for business. We've made historic investments 7 years in a row in education, giving our schools the resources that they need to prepare our children for the opportunities of the future. We protected the health care coverage of hundreds of thousands of additional Marylanders, and we achieved lower insurance rates for everyone in the state for the first time in more than a decade. We met our transportation challenges head-on by investing record amounts in both transit and in roads, and advancing priority projects in every single jurisdiction across the state. We have practiced skilled stewardship of the environment, including record investments in the Chesapeake Bay, which is now cleaner than it's been in recorded history, and implementing stronger clean air standards than 48 states. Our bipartisan common sense effort has brought together Republicans, Democrats, and independents, with a unifying message that, as last week's Goucher poll showed, continues to strongly resonate with people across the state. Last year, a global pandemic wreaked havoc on our way of life, on our schools, on our small businesses, on our communities. But after an incredibly difficult 20 months of being Maryland strong, we're proud to have established a national model for pandemic response and to be one of the most vaccinated states in America with one of the lowest case rates and lowest positivity rates in the nation. But we don't want to just recover from the pandemic. We want to come back stronger than ever before. The main reason that Maryland was named Most Improved State for Business is our relentless focus on infrastructure and innovation. Here in the Baltimore area, we're advancing the transformative Howard Street Tunnel project, which will break a major East Coast rail bottleneck and allow us to exponentially grow business at the Port of Baltimore while adding 10,000 jobs for Marylanders. We're working closely in partnership with Amtrak to replace the 148-year-old B&P tunnel, which is currently the biggest bottleneck between Washington, D.C. and New York. After decades of both parties failing to get it done, we are leading the charge for a bipartisan infrastructure bill in Washington, and we're pushing Congress to put aside their differences and put aside politics and to just get it done for the American people. We launched a Connect Maryland game-changing $400 million initiative to ensure Maryland has universal broadband through such things as improving network infrastructure, as well as providing service fee reductions, municipal broadband grants, and subsidies to reduce the cost of internet service for low and moderate income households to fully address the digital divide for every single person all across our state. To jumpstart the next phase of our recovery, we have been providing more than $2.1 billion in state economic relief measures on top of the federal benefits, including the Relief Act, which we passed earlier this year with near unanimous bipartisan support in both houses of the Maryland General Assembly. It included the largest tax cuts in state history for struggling families, small businesses, and those who lost their jobs due to the global pandemic. We launched Project Restore, which is a transformative $25 million initiative to continue revitalization efforts of our towns and main streets by providing financial incentives to help offset startup costs for those who occupy and revitalize vacant retail and commercial spaces. Here in the Baltimore area, in downtown Baltimore, we advanced a sweeping plan to relocate 3,300 state employees from 12 different agencies and numerous different locations to the area in and around the downtown central business district, which will help be a big boost for revitalization and the transformation of downtown Baltimore. With our record $2.5 billion budget surplus, we are going to leave the state in much better shape than we found it. And we will be able to deliver major tax relief for the state's retirees, for working families, and for those who are struggling across our state. We're working to make sure that Marylanders can keep more of their own hard-earned money in their own pockets. Public officials have no higher responsibility than keeping their citizens safe. As the cyber capital of America, Maryland is at the forefront of the nation's response to cyber vulnerabilities, which threaten all of the systems that support our daily lives. Earlier this year, we held a major cybersecurity summit in Annapolis and enacted a range of bold initiatives, including a new partnership with the National Security Agency to have senior-level data analysts advise the state. We had the establishment of a new Maryland Institute for Innovative Computing at UMBC and a bold statewide privacy framework to protect citizens' information. Leaders at all levels of government, along with stakeholders from the private sector and in academia, need to take immediate and decisive actions to address these cyber threats. We also continue to do everything we possibly can at the state level to support crime control efforts, particularly in Baltimore City. We're investing $150 million more in law enforcement statewide so that we can recruit and retain quality officers, so that we can increase diversity, expand community policing efforts, improve training, expand victim protection services all across the state, and most importantly, so we can keep our neighborhoods safe again. While partisanship and dysfunction continue to consume Washington, right next door here in Maryland, we continue to choose a completely different path. We continue to stand up for that exhausted majority who are completely fed up with all of the angry and divisive politics. And the serious challenges we face are not easily remedied, but we have faced and overcome more daunting challenges before. And there are a lot of folks that I hear who say that our system is too broken, that it can't be fixed. But I would argue that here in Maryland, we have already shown a better path forward. And if we can accomplish that here in our state, then there's no place in America where these very same principles cannot succeed. So I want to thank you all very much for coming this morning, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you for having me.